right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday.
Oh, TGI Friday this week. Even though the week seemed like it lasted forever, I am really happy Friday's here.
Same, same. All right, looks like we are live, everybody.
Yay.
Can you see us over in, let's see here. Whoops.
Facebook land.
Let us know in the chat if you are here and are ready to talk about our next why topic in July. How are you doing today, Joanne?
Ooh, you called me Joanne. I
Joe.
am great, actually, with everything that has been coming together for
Let
me
us know in the chat if you are here.
emotionally.
Yes.
I'm good. Really good, actually.
Hi, Mary. Mary's here with us. Emotionally, you're good. I'm feeling the same. This
Yeah.
is, everyone that we've been doing this every Friday. If I don't know, this has been helping me tons as well. So now we wanted to make today a little surprise, right, Joe? So
Yes,
we're gonna be
indeed.
doing. I'm gonna play this song. Now, this song reminds us in times when we ask for advice. There's sometimes we don't. I chose this song because sometimes when I ask for advice, I realize I'm not really in a zone to even get advice. And the question of today is why. Actually, can you read the question? It's we don't
Why don't we take the advice we ask for?
why yeah, why don't we take the advice we ask for? And so I chose a song that kind of highlighted a moment when you might be asking for advice and you're really not in a zone to accept it. And the song talks some, as you listen to it, it's one you definitely have heard before. It talks about just chilling out in these moments. Sometimes when you know you're not in a receiving zone, it's best to just chill out. And the song is really kind of bringing up this idea of you kind of feel bad for yourself a little bit and you think that no one else knows how you feel. So let's see if you know this song.
That's right.
Let me run with you tonight. I'll take you on a moonlight ride. Someone I used to see, she don't give a damn for me. Let me get to the point. Let's roll another joint until the radio loud. I'm too alone to be proud. You don't know how it feels. You don't know how it feels to be me. People come, people go. Some grow young, some grow cold. I woke up somewhere in between a memory and a dream. Yeah. So let's get to the point. Let's roll another joint. Let's head on down the road to somewhere I gotta go. You don't know how it feels. You don't know how it feels. Still trying to beat the clock. Think of me what you will. I've got a little space to fill. let's get to the point. Let's roll another joint and let's head on down the road to somewhere I gotta go. You don't know how it feels. You don't know how it feels. No, you don't know how it feels. You don't know how it feels. You don't know how it feels. You don't know how it feels to be me. Song is by the one and only Tom Petty. I absolutely love this song. You don't know how it feels.
I love that song too, and I really like what you just did with it.
Yeah, I thought I would break it down a little so we could really hear the tenderness actually of this song. It's super, if you don't think about, Tom Petty, lots of classic rock, is so tender, so tender. This idea of, kind of sitting and just thinking, no one knows how it feels to be me. And that's why I started with this song, because I thought it would be a great jumping point for our conversation today about advice and why we don't take some advice. Sometimes we're just in a zone where we are kind of feeling bad for ourselves, right?
Right. Right. And it actually follows along with what we chatted about last week, which was, why do we complain? And
Right.
why are we, the difference between complaining and venting, and, where that comes from and the headspace that we're in those moments. And, sometimes when we're in that place, we just want to be heard, even though it feels to the other person like we're seeking advice or we're
Oh,
looking
yeah.
for an alternate solution to what is being complained about, vented about, or what we're doing in our life at that moment in time. But we may not be open, right? Our reality may be that we just want to be in that place. And so whatever advice is being given to us, thrown at us, we don't want to hear it, or we're not ready to hear it. So
Yes.
it follows along nicely with what we chatted about last week.
Yeah, it really does. And this idea of like, what zone are you in? And again, highlighting again, none of it is bad, right? Even when we have awareness about something. And it's something I've really grown into, this idea of like being aware of something being bad is not, it's still better. At least I know what's going on.
Oh yeah. Awareness is the key. Self-awareness, hands down, is one of the most skilled things to give yourself. It's just the key to moving forward in anything in life is self-awareness.
Right, exactly. And so in this song, he talks about, you don't know how it feels to be me, right? And he goes, so let's get to the point. Let's roll another joint, turn the radio loud. I'm too alone to be proud. It's just really highlighting, you know what? I'm not in a zone to ask or receive any advice. Maybe he did ask, and he's just not in a zone to receive anything right now. He needs to just chill. And
Right.
sometimes in moments where we know we just need to pause, get a little quiet, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's definitely something that can be useful as we decide to ask for advice and then continually not take it. There's nothing wrong with that, but you might want to ask, maybe I just need to go within a bit and understand more of what's going on so I am in a place where I can be open. And this idea of being open is something that I'm continually working on. When I know I would like to reach out for advice, there's sometimes when I don't, and I used to be worse at this. And I'm finding that the more that I open up to people I can, my tribe, right? We've talked a lot on the show about our tribe. And as we find those people, there's so much benefit to being open to receiving and bouncing things off of each other.
Ugh, there is. And I really, I was having a conversation with a friend this morning, and here's the word resonance. This is for her because I've been finding a lot of resonance lately with other things people are going through and sharing. And in those moments, you might not be able to connect back to your own self. They might be saying, hey, this is what I would do, this is what I have done. But because you may not be in a place of understanding how that connects back to what is going on in your life, you may not resonate right away. But that doesn't mean that what they've said, the words they've used, the way they've put it together or aligned it to you won't sit within you. And one day, one moment, you're going to be like, oh, I get it. That's what that means. Maybe it's going to be 6 months later.
Right.
So I look at it when you were saying what you just did before about not being quite ready, but being open. It made me think of the Four Agreements. And
Mm.
when you read a book like that, it means something different every time you read it because you've had new experience, because other things have happened in your life that then bring you forward into being able to understand it. That's the same with seeking advice and not taking it right away, but then 6 months later taking it. It's like
Right.
you're not ready, but yet it's still in there. It's still sitting in there. Oh, how do you like that? I
Four
love it.
agreements right behind me.
I didn't even see that back there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
mine is on my shelf.
I think I'm due to read it again. But
Oh, with everything that you've been discovering. Yes, indeed. I think that's a great idea. And they even said, so there's a fifth agreement. At the beginning of the fifth agreement, it even stated, and it said this, I said this before I read it. It says, the first time you read the four agreements, it begins to work in your mind. You may not know it, but it does. And that's the same thing as having a conversation with somebody.
right.
You may ignore it. My mom, my sister and I used to joke about this, but my mom was great at asking for advice or having a conversation, and then it would lead to advice and then never taking it. And it used to drive me so batty that it became a pet peeve of mine. Like,
Right.
don't ask me for advice if you're not going to take it. And then I decided that wasn't very compassionate of me, like stay open, Joe, so that people can come to you. But it's not about you, whether they take your advice or not. It's about them.
Right. I think it gets frustrating when you see someone asking for the same advice over and over and over again, just in different ways, but the same advice. And I find though that when I'm around my tribe, when I'm around people who really like are I've got a really close knit group of people very close to me. And if they need the same advice a couple different ways, we can laugh about, like, here, I'll just tell you the same thing I said last week, and we'll just laugh about it because we understand it takes time. And it, like you're saying, it just takes time to work in your brain. But there are people who will ask for the same advice over and over and over and over again and don't even understand and recognize that they are. And
Mhm.
I have a hard time connecting with people like that because it gets to what we talked about last week, which is when you ask for advice, are you really asking for advice or are you complaining?
Right,
Are you just venting? It's okay to vent, right?
right.
And so this idea of once you complain, once you understand something's not so great, right? Then maybe ideally you're searching for a solution, right? And these things can be bounced back and forth. But that's also not a zone you want to stick in because it's very similar to just complaining with no action, right?
Right. Oh, that action word is so important when it comes to staying in the present moment. So, one of the things that I think people see their own reality very differently than we see their reality. And sometimes people can see their reality that is in the future, but in order to get there, they have to stay present. And so it can be very hard for them to stay present because they're constantly future thinking. And constant future thinking is a constricted way of being. So it can be really hard because we see their reality in the present moment, they see their reality in the future, and they're not able to then listen in the present moment to the possibilities and take action in the present moment. It's this weird intermingling that you just described, but that's why it's so important for us to see if we can mirror back to them the present moment, not the future.
Yeah.
Does
Let's
that
talk
make
some
sense?
about that mirroring. Yeah, let's talk some about that because I have a story about someone that I know, and obviously I know them because we had a conversation, and it was very interesting to me. I love being someone else's mirror, and I also love it when people are my mirror, because as long as I'm not in the Tom Petty song "You Don't Know How It Feels," I'm gonna be open to at least getting some things reflected back to me. And so what happens, I think, with all of this is as we connect and we, share what's going on in our life, maybe we're complaining, whatever it is, we're giving someone details, and then they draw out the map of what's going on based on the details you give them, right? And so then what they reflect back to you is just what they know, right? It's just what you've given them. And as you keep telling them more, there's more parts of the map, and a little slightly different reflection in the mirror will show up. And one of the most useful things is when someone does reflect what you're saying back to you. And I'm going to tell my story, and then I want you to chime in with what we had just talked about before we went live. So I know someone who we were talking, and they were going through something. And as they were giving me information, right, I listened, I know the person well. And then I asked them, I said, do you want me to just listen, or would you like to kind of talk through it? And I have some things that I'm seeing, maybe that could connect some pieces. And so I did that. And they ended up getting very frustrated at me, saying, it's like you take what I say and then you act like you know exactly what the next steps are. And I get what you're saying, because that makes sense to go that way. But, they got frustrated that I seem to know it all, right? And I explained to them, like, I don't. You've just given me this information, and based on this, these are a couple ways it could go, right? And they were frustrated. They were frustrated with me because they saw what I was saying, right? But they said that they didn't understand how I got there, right? Like how I got there so easily. But it was easy for me because I didn't have all the baggage of the stuff. I wasn't in it. So I explained to them, I said, I'm not feeling the emotions, that you are. It's not baggage. I just have simple data.
That's
and I'm
right.
just reflecting back.
Exactly. You're seeing it from the witness standpoint. And that is the key for all of us to be able to see ourselves, our experiences as the witness. So in that case, this person was immediately judging themselves that they couldn't see it the way you saw it, because they were in that same state. They were judging, they were in a victim state, they weren't seeing it as the witness. And it can be really easy for us to see others' experiences from a witness standpoint more objectively. I've got a beautiful mirror here that reflects back to me always, and he does a really, really great job. And then he kind of looks at me like, well, and it's so fun because I will then take it in, and I have to really absorb and think about it and take myself out of any cyclical judging victim shame state, so I can see the same thing he's reflecting back to me. And I do that with any of my tribe that comes to me with that kind of that kind of witness reflection is the best way to look at it. But often we aren't ready to see it like that. That's why for me, and the best advice that I give anybody that I work with and talk to is, you don't have to respond immediately. Take it in. Say thank you, have gratitude for the conversation, and then work through it for your own self and your own pace. And when you're ready, it will come back to you. But oftentimes we're not ready to see that reflection in the mirror come back to us like that. So, and in that case, it can be really tough because maybe the person wasn't really seeking advice and they only wanted to vent. Exactly. So I've been learning, this is a learning moment for me and maybe others, to qualify, is someone looking for advice? Do you want me to help you with this experience right now? Or are you just trying to vent and get it off your chest? And for me, when I watch, I used to just throw advice at people. And it had gotten to a point where I think it was annoying. I had a couple of friends, they were like, I could tell they were annoyed. And it wasn't coming from anywhere other than I got so excited because I could see something from the mirror standpoint. Like I could reflect this back to them. Yay. Bleh. And I would just throw up on them. And I have learned since then that not everybody is ready for all of that. And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. Now, when someone is asking for advice and they do get frustrated with what you reflect back on them, you had mentioned that this is the ego talking.
Yes.
Right.
It is the ego, right? Because the ego wants the judge and the victim's state of being to keep us small, right? It's that weird false protection that the ego brings in. And they think that they're just protecting us. They want us to stay in this little comfort zone of what's always known and what's been. And yes, it's very egoic to have that sort of a response. Right. And, the ego has its place. But the higher self that wants the advice and that wants to move forward is actually, the real state of being that we want to be listening to if we're in a position to grow and, change. But yes, the ego, I forgot about the ego, Kelsey. Thank you for reminding me.
It was a great comment that you had. It really was. And yeah. So, Mary in the chat, I want to bring this up.
Oh, yeah.
Both. Let me vent, but I will stop, take a breath, and listen to you. Amen to that. We all do need to vent, right? It is sometimes nice. And it depends on how you process things. So I know people, like my brother, for example, he doesn't talk as much as I do. I like to talk to process things, right? And so I am aware when we're talking that I have to announce that to him, like, hey, I'm just going to free form talk for a couple minutes because I'm processing. And that helps a lot, right? With people who are a little, maybe a little different than you. But it is, it's the combination, venting and then maybe listen and then, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other piece that comes to me when you say that is I think of myself as a middle child. And as a middle child, I sought harmony and I really wanted everybody to be happy. And so I would run around and just try to make everybody happy. And hey, let's do this, or the advice to get somebody to a point where it was comfortable for me because I needed harmony. And unraveling those childhood ways of being as an adult can be really tricky. And, some of us will continue to go down the path of what we grew up in, state of beings we grew up in until we have awareness. Yeah. And I love that you say, hey, I'm just processing right now. So you don't have to fix.
That is the number one relationship saver, any type of relationship that I've learned is that the better I understand myself, the more I understand myself, the easier I can communicate it to someone else and then take that burden off of them as they're listening to me or having a conversation where I can just preemptively say, hey, I'm really frustrated about this. Probably for the next 8 minutes, I'm just going to vent. Do you have time? And if they don't, they don't. Yeah. They always, yes, they do. And then, of course, I go over 8 minutes. Right. And then it just puts us both in a nice zone where we know where we're going and we know what's happening, right?
Oh,
so absolutely. Totally love this idea about awareness. So last week, again, we talked about complaining. And now this week, we're talking about asking for advice and why we don't take the advice. And it sounds to me like the main reason we wouldn't take the advice is just because we aren't ready to receive any reflection, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could take it to the extreme and say that there's certain advice you don't take because it's just not for you. But I think this topic, to me, what's the one that's more interesting is when you're hearing advice and you don't take it. What happens if you don't even realize that you're asking for the same advice over and over again? I mean, you hope that you have a friend that will bring it up to you and you hope that you're in a receiving mode, That's happened to me once before. I
Mhm.
had an issue with a group of people. As a musician, there's a lot of different personalities, okay, and so, and it's very different than chemistry. So as a chemist, it was a little simpler, with groups of people. Everyone is a nerd. We all like chemistry. We like facts. Musicians are, we all have
Creatives.
creatives, exactly. And I've had to learn a lot through that process of being around very different groups of people. And I was having an issue with some creatives, right? And it just wasn't working. It wasn't vibing. I wasn't. There's a lot of disrespect, and just I wasn't in a good place being around them. And what happened was I had a friend that I realized I was asking advice about the same damn topic. All of the times I asked, it was different. It was different,
Mhm.
but it was all based on around this idea of the people that I was around and them disrespecting me. And I was frustrated because I felt I was in a box. But the ways that I would ask it, they all felt different to me, all the
Right.
scenarios. And at the time when they brought this up to me and they reflected it back and they said, hey, here's your map, they all pointed the same thing. And you need to like think about this. You need to think about, like how you want to get treated and all this stuff. I was kind of frustrated because it was frustrating to think that all this time, right, all the things that were happening were about the same topic, and I didn't even recognize it. I thought they were all different.
Right.
So
Can I
this,
ask you a question?
yes.
Were you ever in a state of denial in those moments?
Oh, I'm sure. Because what happens is something would happen and this is my cue now. If you're in a state of denial about something, eventually it catches up with you to where
Right.
then it's something that you complain about or seek advice about, right? It always does. But if you're in a state of denial, what triggers it for me is when I make excuses for other people, excuses for their behavior, excuses for how they treated me, excuses for whatever. And if you have to do that enough
Mhm.
times, you're just in denial about them not being who you think they are.
Correct. And you don't have the awareness to your own self in those moments because you're giving all of them an out.
Mm-hmm.
You're not allowing them to stand in the space that they actually need to be in. That's a state of denial. So that is the answer to the question, why do we seek advice on the same topic, even in different ways? Because we're in denial. We don't have the awareness that takes us over the hump yet. So when did all of that change for you?
I had someone in my tribe reflect back what I was feeding them. And everything, and this had been over a couple of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they reflected this back, and their message to me was the same. And then it started getting stronger because they were like,
Right.
hey, this is still under the same umbrella. I
Right.
don't know. I know that I would have gotten there eventually, but definitely not as fast as if, or not as fast if I didn't have someone that I could ask for advice,
Right.
right? So this idea of why don't we take the advice? It could be a lot what you just said, denial. It could also just be we just haven't, we're in the middle of it. We
Yeah.
can't always connect the dots and be able to see everything.
No.
But
Mm-mm.
why this is why I brought up Tom Petty's song. You don't know how it feels to be me. If we stay in that kind of thought process too long, we
Yeah.
won't share and connect with others about what's going on,
Right.
which means we won't get someone to reflect it back on us.
Right. Yeah, it's a victim state when you think about it. When you think
Right.
about that one simple line, you don't know how, like that is a victim state right there. So interestingly enough, yesterday I had written a quote that falls right in line with this song, this topic, and this conversation specifically, because what you just said was essentially you were one way and you were allowing them to be the way they are and making excuses for them, but you're really no longer that way.
And yes,
So you have awareness,
yep.
I mean, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was that way for them. And I think I started growing, right? And I knew where I
Yeah.
wanted to be. And
Right.
where I was at the moment wasn't feeling good.
That's correct.
Okay.
Exactly. Because it all of a sudden was not in alignment with who you thought you were or who
Right.
you used to be or who you know you are.
Do you
Right.
want to say your quote?
Oh, it's just perfectly aligned and timed. So the quote, sometimes it's hard to discern between the person I know I am and the person I want to be.
Sometimes it's hard to discern the person I know I am and the person I want to be.
Or is it I used to be? I think I wrote my own quote down wrong.
That's okay.
I really
Want
do.
or used to, future or past.
Yes,
This
indeed.
idea of,
And the person I used to be. So here I wrote it down wrong. I'm going to say that quote all over again because it makes a massive difference. One word can change the entire context. So here it goes. Sometimes it's hard to discern between the person I know I am and the person I used to be.
oof,
Right? See, big, huge difference because what I said before was exactly the same. Yes,
that
the
really
person
resonates with me.
I know I am and the
So,
person I used to be.
so this idea of making excuses for others and kind of being in this denial, it's really this disconnect, right? Or trying to discern between who you used to be and who you really are at the moment.
Mhm.
We don't like a lot of discomfort and change. And so as you change, right, which we inevitably will, we're constantly growing, constantly moving, constantly changing, constantly, expanding, all those things. Then when we're in a situation like I was describing, I'll start to make excuses because it allows who I am now to be comfortable in a situation that only old me was comfortable with.
Mm,
And so I changed. The situation really didn't change much, but I changed. And so in order for me, so if this is a situation and here I am, old
yep,
Kelsey was right underneath. This situation was cool. Here I
that's right.
am now. The only way for me to be comfortable is I have to draw a line between them, which is all the little denial, like the
Yeah.
making excuses, because I got
When
to
you're
still
not
tether.
ready, you didn't see the value, it wasn't the right time, all the
I gotta tether it. Otherwise, I'm like in no man's land, right?
right.
But then once you recognize it, now you can develop a different kind of path to maybe there's other ways to connect with that situation. It doesn't have to be drop it. And so the only way to get there, though, for me, is I need people. I need to connect. I need to talk about it out loud. Even if it's journaling, if you like journaling, you might see something similar pop up again and again and again, right?
Exactly.
And you won't take the advice until you're ready. You won't. You won't need to. Actually, you don't even need to take the advice until it gets bad enough to where you want to make a change. You want
Right.
to have an action.
Well, and you can accept the new ideas coming in at that point too. There's a matter of timing to when you're open for the acceptance of things to come in. And when you accept something like that, then you can take action with it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Mary Beth made a good point here that she's been told that she re-asks the same questions because she doesn't like the answer. And that is a form of denial too. And so I mean, that is really an interesting, and we can laugh about that. But when you take a second to think about it, when you don't like the answer, it's kind of like the mirror coming back at you that you don't want to see the reflection of yet, and so you ask it again and hopefully it'll come back to you in a different way. And, only when you're ready, only when your soul is ready to accept what's being said and the ego can get just a little bit smaller because your soul is getting a little bit brighter, will you be able to accept and take action. And everyone's timeline is so different. And that's why I said earlier, the compassion to move through that with somebody when they keep coming back to you is so important because you're holding space for them at
You're
that point.
holding space. And
Right.
you're telling them the best gift that I think anyone can give anyone is saying, I don't care how long it takes for you to get through this. I'm here and I will hold space for you.
Mm. Can I add to that?
Yes.
That's also the best gift that you can give yourself.
Girl, I love that.
And I'm coming through that this week alone. I mean, I've realized this week that I wasn't even taking my own advice. Which is another twist on this whole idea. Like, I can look clearly in the mirror
Right.
and realize that I wasn't even taking my own advice in order to move through something that I've been faced with. And that can be kind of gut wrenching because, and I'm not judging this myself at all, because I have enough compassion for my own self, but it does make me giggle. I get that nervous giggle, like, Joe, you dumbass, what is going on? And when I wasn't ready, I
Yeah.
was not ready to see the thing or to connect the dot. I needed to hear it a couple of different ways. I needed it to come to me in a dream. I needed to have some energy work. Like, I needed all the pieces because that's me. And then I needed to give myself some grace,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
held space.
And you did bring up Mary's comment about, asking it in different ways, hoping the advice will be different. I actually think that is the number one best action plan when you don't really like the advice you're getting. And the reason I like it is because it's talking about, like, looking in a mirror, right? And like, if you want to see if your outfit looks okay, right? And you're not really sure about it. It goes straight forward, right? So then we turn a little bit and we're still not sure about it. And then we, hold a mirror to see, the back, and now we're really not being sure about it. It's important to look at all the ones, because if, that's the best way to confirm that you don't like your outfit, right? If you just kind of look at it once and you aren't really sure about it, why not just look at it at all angles? Then you'll be able to make a good decision, right? Because you've seen all the sides. And, even if you're technically in denial, right? When you look at someone reflects advice back to you based on what, the mirror they hold up. If that happens and you don't like it, I don't know. I think it's actually, and maybe it's because I have a negative connotation, or I have a negative thought process with the word denial, right?
Yeah.
It's okay that you need multiple angles,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I know I need it. I need to work through something, and if each time I work through it and I go through each little way I could attack the same question or the same problem, and I get the same answer spitting out, then I feel very comfortable moving forward with action, because I've explored all the ways it makes me feel if I approach it in different
Right.
angles.
Right. And what I am finding with what you just said is there is a science behind this, because I think about Kelsey and I think about Kelsey's, oh, woof. Wow. I'm sorry. I just had some energy. That was
Oh,
really intense. Okay.
oh, cool.
I am good. Whew. Hello, whoever you are.
Exciting.
The science and the scientist in you, the researcher in you, right? I picture you getting to the point of your music, and I picture you in the fishbowl, and I picture you doing your research and in your lab, like you've talked about before. And that's what you do. You get at all the angles. And that gives you the clarity that you need to know that you're moving forward the way you want, in the right direction.
Yes.
And for me, it is not necessarily the angles, but it's the, and maybe it's the same thing, but I see it as rocks, and I'm building the cairn to put it all together until I get to the tippy top, when I totally trust the top rock at the top of that cairn, and it's not going to go anywhere because I built the foundation, and then all of a sudden I can move forward. And this is why it's so important to have patience with the way someone is explaining something, because maybe eventually they'll get you to the point, but maybe they're going to say one word that makes sense to you. And then you talk to someone else in your tribe, and that person says two words, and now you have three words that make sense to you. You need six in order to move forward, right? So it's this building block it's the angles, it's the building of the cairn, it's
It's the journal. The just,
journaling.
you've got a page of paper, a piece of paper, and you need to fill it with all the details. And I
Right.
call it data, but all the details, right? Once you get all the details, there's only one the answer is, and sometimes when you only have two or three of the pieces of data, right? It's you've talked to one person about this and came up with the action plan. And
Yeah.
if you talk to a second and a third and a fourth, and it just keeps like feeling right, that
Right.
action plan, it helps us solidify to know to take that advice, right?
Yeah, it does. And here's the woo-woo side of Joe in
Okay.
what I do. And whoever is connecting with me right now wants to make sure that I say that the layers that we go through, that we heal whatever it is that we're trying to do in order to heal and get to our own truth, which will allow us to take advice at the right time, comes in layers. So the first layer may only need the two pieces to the puzzle in order for you to move forward. And then all of a sudden you're going to get thrown, and that's a comfort zone, and you can live inside of that, and that all makes sense, and it's really, really good. And then all of a sudden you're thrown another experience that takes you into a deeper layer. And those layers keep peeling away at all the stuff that holds you back. And so once you have the awareness of going deeper with every opportunity, every experience, things come through faster. You can move through them faster. You can connect the dots of the advice that's coming to you faster. And that's growth. That's transformation. So I have no idea where this is coming from right now. And I feel like I can't even see you, Kelsey. This is really bizarre. But this topic is so important to where we are in the world right now, that the world has been trying to figure out how to come back together, and everybody's got their ideas. And how many times do you see these online courses and this methodology and this way of doing something, and go over there and do that one and go here and do that one? Take a freaking break, slow down, and let it come to you instead of forcing it.
100%.
Let it flow.
100%. One of the biggest things in the music world is that I've had recent conversations with other musicians, and sometimes they'll be like, well, this is where I know I need to do this in the next step in my journey. And I'm like, what do you really want? That's the number one question we all need to ask ourselves. And you just brought up all these things in society and it's really this online world, right? Of what we need to do next, what we need to do to feel like the most full or the best, to be, what does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be a man? What do you need? You have to get this, you have to lose this much weight to be beautiful. You have to just stop. What do you want? What do you want in your world? And then focus inward, stop, you don't know how it feels to me by Tom Petty,
Right.
that thought process of kind of feeling bad for yourself a little bit causes him in the song. So let's get to the point. Let's roll another joint. Let's, turn the radio loud. I'm too alone to be proud. And that might not be your cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea. I'm more of I used to be, let's pour another pint, not roll another joint. But I don't drink either. So, but this idea of just pausing. When you start to feel that way, right? And things just start getting hard, just pause.
Yeah.
Just pause.
Just pause and realize that it will come, that the awareness that you need in order to move forward, however you want to move forward, will come. And that, if you have a friend who's coming to you seeking advice, hold the space for them, share with them, hold the space for them, because it'll come for them too.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's what this world needs, more of us connect. It's like the ripple effect. You've got someone in the center, it's the rock that falls in the center, and then it ripples and it ripples and it ripples. That's how you hold space.
And holding space for someone else. Yeah. And holding space for someone else, then also in hearing what they're saying, it might actually help you with your stuff too.
Oh, heck yeah.
When you share, now they're going to hold space. This back and forth is the most beautiful part of any relationship. It's really amazing.
Yes. doing
Yeah.
so with grace. So anyhow, um I'm so hopeful for this world that we live in, and for people in general to continue to heal themselves and get to the point where, we're all just, it's kind of, I love the idea of the 70s kind of coming back, where it's everything is love, peace and love. Let's just let it flow and seek, like Rumi says, what you seek is seeking you. And let the advice come in when you're ready for it. You'll have that awareness, and then you can move forward with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whew. So sometimes it's hard to discern between the person I know I am and the person I used to be.
And when we seek advice and we don't take it, it's nothing wrong. There's nothing bad going on. Just keep making sure you're spending the time on yourself to be aware
Yeah. Holding space.
and hold space for yourself and others. Oh, what a great conversation. Thank you so much, everyone,
Well,
for joining us. And
I
thank
know. And I was watching Facebook for a little bit, and I didn't see any comments inside of Facebook. So I'm going to roll back that way a little bit. But we really appreciate it when you guys are here and,
we do.
have a
Thank
conversation
you.
with us.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And if you're watching the replay, let us know in the comments below what this is bringing up for you. And we'll see you next Friday for another conversation of why in July.
Why
And
in July?
we
Oh
look
my
forward to
gosh.
seeing you.
Is that our fifth one? How is,
No, it'll be the fourth one next.
okay. Yeah, I'm still out of my body here. So thank you, Kelsey, for singing us a little bit of that song. Actually, it was
Yes.
beautiful.
Tom
Beautiful.
Petty. Yeah. Well, hey, have a great Friday, everybody. Thank you for joining us in Lyrical Lessons for Life. And we will see you next Friday.
Awesome. Love and light, you guys.
All right. Bye bye.